The sky was not always an empty expanse. Ancient civilizations saw it as a living gateway, a place where gods descended and heroes ascended. This video uncovers 23 incredible stories of these celestial openings from around the world. You will discover a hidden pattern of human belief that connects cultures across vast distances and deep time. What did our ancestors truly witness when they described ladders to heaven and burning chariots? And why would a Siberian shaman climb a cosmic tree or a Babylonian priest build a towering stairway to nothing? By the end, you will see the night sky not as a void, but as a forgotten landscape of divine connection. What does it say about us that we once believed the heavens were so close? Rising from the sun-baked plains of Mesopotamia, the ziggurat was a mountain crafted by human hands. These colossal tiered temples, like the legendary Etemenanki in Babylon, were far more than places of worship. They were conceived as stairways, literal bridges for the gods to walk upon as they descended to our world. The great god Marduk was believed to use this very structure, a cosmic anchor point tethering heaven to earth. Ancient inscriptions called these ziggurats the bond between heaven and earth, a profound statement of their purpose. Priests would climb the towering ramps, performing intricate rituals on each ascending level, moving closer to the celestial sphere with every step. This architectural journey was a physical and spiritual climb, a deliberate leaving behind of the mortal plane in pursuit of divine communion. It was humanity's ambition made manifest in brick and tar, a declaration that the sky was not a barrier but a destination. This profound idea that we could build our way to the gods would echo for millennia. Yet as we move from these man-made mountains, we find a culture that saw the sky opening not through architecture, but through a living, breathing pillar at the very center of the world. Far to the north, in the world of ice and fire, the sky opened not as a static mountain but as a shimmering, living arc of light. This was the Bifröst, the burning rainbow bridge of Norse myth. It was a pathway of pure energy, connecting the mortal realm of Midgard directly to the golden halls of Asgard, the home of the gods. More than just a beautiful spectacle, it was a fiercely guarded border. The god Heimdallr, the ever-vigilant watchman, stood at its Asgard end, with vision that could span 1,000 leagues and hearing so sharp he could discern the growth of the sheep's wool on the earth below. His duty was to sound the Jala horn at the first sign of any threat, any who would try to cross without permission. This bridge was not a public road, it was a divine thoroughfare, a privilege of the gods who traversed its brilliant length each day. Its very substance, a fire that burned within the rainbow, was a purifying force, a celestial flame that ensured only those of a certain essence could endure the journey. This was a connection that was both magnificent and terrifyingly fragile. The myths tell us that this glorious bridge would not last forever. During the cataclysmic events of Ragnarök, the twilight of the gods, the Bifröst would shatter and collapse under the weight of the invading armies of chaos. Its destruction was not just the loss of a road, it was the unmaking of cosmic order itself, the final, violent severing of the bond between the human and the divine. This Norse vision presents a profound idea that the gateway to heaven could be both breathtakingly beautiful and perilously temporary. But what if the sky did not open as a bridge or a staircase, but as a vehicle of pure light, carrying a human being directly into the heart of the divine? While the Norse gods walked a bridge of fire, a single man in the ancient Near East was carried into the heavens by it. The prophet Elijah did not need a man-made stairway or a guarded rainbow. His celestial gateway was a storm of divine power. As told in the second book of Kings, he was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, a chariot of fire and horses of fire appearing at the very moment of his ascent. This was not a quiet passing. It was a violent, glorious rupture in the fabric of reality, a divine endorsement so powerful it physically lifted him from the earth. Elijah was transformed in that instant from a mortal prophet into a permanent celestial figure, one who would later be awaited as a forerunner to the Messiah. The fiery chariot itself is often seen as a Merkaba, a divine throne vehicle described in intricate detail in later Jewish mystical texts. This was not a mere chariot as we might imagine it, but a complex, living manifestation of God's own power, a machine of spirit designed to traverse the higher realms. It represented the ultimate idea that the laws of nature could be suspended, that a human being, through righteousness and divine favor, could be elevated directly into the heart of the divine. This vision sparked an entire tradition of mystics known as Merkaba mystics, who devoted their lives to spiritual techniques, to fasting and prayer and intense contemplation, all in an effort to achieve their own visionary ascent. They sought to perceive these celestial vehicles for themselves, to ride the chariot in their minds and unlock the secrets of the universe. Elijah's story, therefore, is a powerful declaration that the sky opens not just for gods, but for the morally pure. The gateway is ethical as much as it is supernatural. This profound link between a righteous life and celestial access finds a startling echo in a very different part of the world, where the sky opened not through fire, but through the living trunk of a colossal tree. Deep in the frozen forests of Siberia, the sky did not open at the peak of a tower, but at the heart of a living tree. For the indigenous shamans, the entire cosmos was structured around a single, colossal axis, the world tree. This was no ordinary birch or larch, though it might appear as one in our world. It was the axis mundi, the central pillar of existence, its roots delving deep into the shadowy underworld and its highest branches piercing through the multiple layers of the sky to reach the upper world of spirits and deities. The shaman's journey was a direct ascent of this cosmic pillar. Through the rhythmic beat of the drum, the chant, and the focused power of trance, the shaman's spirit would detach and begin to climb. This was not a physical climb, but a profound internal voyage, a traversing of spiritual geography. Each branch represented another celestial layer, another realm to navigate, filled with guardian spirits and ancestral voices. The purpose of this perilous journey was always for the community. The shaman would negotiate with powerful spirits, seek healing knowledge for the sick, or discover the location of game for the hunters, bringing tangible wisdom back from the celestial realms. This vision presents a radical idea that the most important gateway to the heavens was not made of stone or fire, but of consciousness itself. It was a path open only to those who could master the inner landscape of the spirit. Yet, from this internal, personal gateway, we find a culture that looked to the most immense and stable features of the external world to find their connection to the divine. The people of the Andes saw the sky opening not in a tree, but in the towering, snow-capped peaks of their sacred mountains. The frozen forests of Siberia give way to the breathtaking peaks of the Andes, where the sky opened not through a living tree but through the very bones of the earth. For the Inca, the colossal, snow-capped mountains were far more than geological features. They were the Apus, powerful and conscious mountain spirits who served as divine intermediaries. These giants stood as the ultimate celestial gateways, bridging the human world with the sun god Inti and the wider cosmos. The Apus were not distant or indifferent deities. They were intimately involved in the fate of the people, believed to control the weather, the fertility of the soil, and the very well-being of the community. A benevolent Apu would grant gentle rains and protect the herds, while a displeased one could unleash devastating frosts or landslides. This relationship required constant nurturing. The Inca built spectacular high-altitude shrines, like those nestled among the terraces of Machu Picchu, positioning them with incredible precision to align with the solstices and other key astronomical events. At these sacred sites, priests would perform elaborate rituals and offer precious gifts, from finely woven cloth to, on rare and significant occasions, human sacrifices known as kapakocha. These offerings were not acts of fear but of reciprocity, a vital exchange meant to maintain harmony between the human and celestial realms. The mountain was the conduit, the active portal through which this communication flowed. It was a gateway woven directly into the landscape, a permanent and powerful connection to the divine that governed every aspect of life, from the planting of crops to the fate of the empire itself. This vision transforms a mountain from a simple object into a living, breathing participant in a cosmic dialogue. But what happens when a culture looks not to the solid, unmoving earth for their gateway, but to the most fluid and shifting element of all? Our journey now moves from these stone giants to the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, where the sky opened in a shimmering pathway of water and light. Across the immense blue expanse of the Pacific, the sky opened not as a mountain or a tree, but as a seasonal pathway of clouds and light. For the Hawaiian people, the god Lono, bringer of fertility, agriculture, and peace, made his annual descent to the islands along this celestial road. His arrival was not a secret or a singular miracle, but a deeply anticipated event woven into the very fabric of the year, marked by the Makahiki festival. For 4 sacred months, the sounds of war ceased completely. Communities engaged in sports, feasts, and religious ceremonies, all to welcome the god and receive his blessings for rain and abundant harvests. The pathway itself was visible to all, a shimmering bridge of clouds and a rainbow arching down from the heavens. This was not a bridge to be walked by humanity, but one for the god to traverse, bringing his life-giving power directly to the land and its people. The rainbow served as a perfect symbol for this connection, a phenomenon of both light and water, elements essential for growth, appearing to touch both the sky and the earth simultaneously. Lono's story reveals a crucial nuance in these celestial gateways. They could be temporary and cyclical. The portal to the divine was not always a permanent fixture. It could be a scheduled event, an opening in time as much as in space, tied directly to the rhythms of nature and human society. This idea of a scheduled, predictable celestial connection stands in stark contrast to the vision of another ancient civilization, one that saw the sky opening through the eternal, star-studded body of a goddess. The star-dusted night sky of ancient Egypt was not an empty void, but the living body of a goddess, nut arched protectively over the entire world, her fingers and toes touching the eastern and western horizons, her star-studded torso forming the celestial vault. Each day she performed the ultimate act of transformation. At dusk she would swallow the sun god Ra, and his journey through her body through the hours of darkness was not a destruction but a renewal. At dawn she would give birth to him once more, reborn and radiant on the horizon. Her body was the ultimate celestial gateway, a passage through which the entire cosmos cycled. This was not a gateway one could build or climb, but one that existed as the very fabric of reality. For the pharaohs, this meant immortality. Upon death, a king's soul was believed to ascend directly through Nut's starry form to join the circumpolar stars, the imperishable ones, becoming a permanent deity in the heavens. The intricate paintings on tomb ceilings were not mere decoration. They were functional maps of this celestial passage, a guide for the soul's journey through the divine body of the sky. This vision presents the sky not as a barrier, but as a nurturing, maternal gateway, endlessly consuming and recreating the forces of life and divinity in a cycle as reliable as the sunrise. How different this gentle, organic passage is from another ancient vision of connection, where the gateway to heaven was not a goddess, but a simple ladder glimpsed in a dream. A stone for a pillow and the hard ground for a bed, yet for the patriarch Jacob, this was the setting for one of history's most profound visions of a celestial gateway. Fleeing from his brother's wrath, he lay down to sleep and dreamed of a ladder, or more accurately a massive stairway or ramp, set upon the earth with its top reaching into the very heavens. This was no ordinary structure. Upon it, angels of God were ascending and descending, a constant flowing traffic between the human and the divine. This was not a bridge for gods to come down, but a two-way communication channel, a direct link where messages and blessings could flow freely between realms. In that moment, God himself stood beside Jacob and reaffirmed the covenant made with his ancestors. When Jacob awoke, he was awestruck, declaring, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." He named the location Bethel, which means house of God, forever marking it as a sacred portal, a place where the veil between worlds had grown thin. This story introduces a powerful new dimension to our understanding of celestial gateways. They are not always grand physical constructions or natural landmarks. They can appear in the humble, vulnerable state of a dream, accessible not through ritual or power, but through faith and a receptive heart. Later traditions would see Jacob's ladder as a profound metaphor for prayer, a spiritual ascent where the human soul can climb towards the divine, or for the role of righteous individuals who themselves become living bridges between heaven and earth. This dreamscape gateway, witnessed by a solitary man on the run, reveals that the sky can open anywhere to anyone when the conditions of the spirit are right. And from this intimate dream of a ladder, our journey takes us to a far more overwhelming and complex vision of a celestial vehicle, one witnessed by the prophet Ezekiel beside the river Chebar. A whirlwind from the north, a great cloud with flashing fire, and within it, a structure so complex it defies simple description. This was the vision granted to the prophet Ezekiel by the river Chebar, a sight of divine machinery far beyond the fiery chariot that took Elijah. He described a wheel within a wheel, their rims full of eyes all around, moving in any direction without turning. These were not mere wheels for travel, but symbols of a divine consciousness that sees everything from every angle at once, a manifestation of an all-knowing, omnipresent God. Accompanying this were 4 living creatures, each with 4 faces and 4 wings. There forms a fusion of human, lion, ox, and eagle, representing the pinnacle of creation. Together, they formed the Merkaba, God's mobile throne chariot. This was not a gateway one could find or build, but a gateway that could find you, a moving, living portal that could open the sky anywhere and at any time. The entire vision hummed with motion and sound, with the rush of wings and the rumble of wheels, emphasizing that the connection to the divine is not a static place but a dynamic, conscious event. This breathtaking account became the foundation for an entire school of Jewish mysticism, where adepts would spend years in intense meditation and prayer, seeking to achieve their own visionary ascent, to perceive the Merkaba for themselves and journey through the celestial palaces. Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel presents a gateway that is intelligent, all-seeing, and terrifyingly alive. From this vision of a conscious, mobile portal, we journey to the other side of the world, where the sky opened not as a divine vehicle, but as a cosmic whirlpool, a vortex that connected the world of the living to the world of the spirits. The same ocean that offered a pathway for the god Lono could also open into a terrifying maw. For the Maori of Aotearoa, the celestial gateway was not a bridge of light but a churning vortex known as Te Parata. This was no ordinary whirlpool. It was a cosmic event, a personified force of nature, a taniwha of immense power that lived in the sea. Te Parata was believed to be the source of the tides and currents, its breathing creating the very push and pull of the ocean itself. This made it a direct conduit, a dangerous portal to the underworld and the heavens. For any navigator setting out on the vast Pacific, confronting Te Parata was a very real spiritual and physical trial. The whirlpool could swallow entire canoes, pulling them down into the abyss, a one-way journey to the realm of spirits. Yet, to complete a great voyage, a hero had to face this entity, to use immense skill, courage, and sacred knowledge to navigate the churning waters and escape its pull. This was not a gateway one simply walked through. It was a test of survival. Parata embodies the dual nature of these cosmic openings, a stark reminder that the connection between worlds was not always safe or benevolent. It could give life through the ocean's bounty, but it could also take it away in a violent, chaotic instant. This gateway demanded respect and immense bravery from those who dared to approach its turbulent edge. From this churning, elemental passage, we find a gateway of an entirely different order, one of serene bureaucracy and celestial hierarchy high above in the mountains of China. High above the mortal world, in the highest reaches of the heavens, sat a palace of perfect order. This was the celestial court of the Jade Emperor, the supreme deity of Chinese mythology. Unlike the fiery chariots or living whirlpools of other traditions, this gateway was one of serene bureaucracy. The Jade Emperor did not merely reside in the sky, he administered the entire universe from his throne, presiding over a vast hierarchy of gods, spirits, and even the fates of human dynasties. His palace was the ultimate symbol of cosmic justice and balance, a realm accessible only to those who had achieved spiritual perfection. For a mortal to even approach this celestial gateway required a lifetime of dedication, often through the rigorous practices of Taoism. This meant years of meditation, strict asceticism, and the elusive pursuit of alchemy, all aimed at refining the base self into an immortal being. The journey was one of internal purification, a shedding of worldly attachments until the spirit was light enough to ascend to the highest heaven. This was not a path of desperate pleas, but of disciplined self-cultivation. Yet, the gateway could also be opened by a force even more powerful than spiritual discipline, the force of enduring love. This is beautifully captured in the story of the weaving maid and the cowherd. Separated for their transgression, these two lovers are granted a single night together each year, when a bridge of magpies forms across the Milky Way. This fluttering, living bridge is a temporary celestial gateway created not by the gods for their own use, but out of compassion for true devotion. It reveals that even within a universe of strict hierarchy, there is room for a divine exception, a moment where love itself can command the heavens to open. The Jade Emperor's palace, therefore, stands as the ultimate ethical gateway. It represents a universe governed by principle, where access to the divine is the final reward for a life lived with virtue, discipline, and unwavering heart. But what if the sky did not open for kings or lovers or disciplined mystics, but for an entire people through the very vibrations of the earth itself? Our journey now takes us to a time before time, to the Australian dreaming, where the celestial gateway was not a place or an object, but a resonant, living song. In the red heart of Australia, the sky did not open as a structure, but as a song. For the Aboriginal peoples, the entire continent is crisscrossed by songlines, invisible pathways etched into the land during the dream time by the ancestral beings who shaped the world. These are not mere tracks for physical travel, they are living narratives, spiritual maps where every rock, waterhole, and mountain range holds a verse in an epic story of creation. To walk a songline is to sing the country into existence with every step. The songs themselves are the celestial gateway. By performing the precise sequences of melody and rhythm, a practitioner does more than remember a route. They activate the very power of the ancestor who first walked that path. This ritual chanting and dance becomes a vehicle for travel, not just across the land, but between the earthly realm and the timeless dimension of the dreaming. It is an auditory portal where the human voice, synchronized with the sacred geography, resonates with enough power to thin the veil between worlds. This is a gateway woven from cultural memory and oral tradition, a living connection maintained not by priests in temples but by entire communities through endless cycles of ceremony. The land itself is the scripture, and the song is the key that unlocks its celestial dimensions. This profound idea transforms the very act of navigation into a spiritual practice, where knowing the song is knowing the way to the sky. From this resonant, living network of sound, our journey takes a dramatic turn to a place where the gateway to the heavens was built not of song, but of silent, monumental stone. The resonant songlines of Australia find their echo in the silent, standing stones of Salisbury Plain. For the Neolithic builders of Stonehenge, the sky opened on a precise schedule, dictated by the sun itself. This colossal ring of sarsen and bluestone was far more than a calendar. It was a monumental gateway. Its architecture was a deliberate act of cosmic alignment, a way to capture a celestial event in stone. Each year at the summer solstice, the dawn sun would rise in perfect alignment with the outlying heelstone, its first rays shooting a beam of light directly into the center of the circle. For the people who gathered there, this was not just a marker of the longest day. It was a moment of profound connection when the boundary between worlds grew thin. The sun was not merely a star, it was a solar deity, and this alignment was a doorway through which its divine power could pour into our world. This energy was believed to bless the land, ensure fertility for the coming harvest, and perhaps even provide a conduit for ancestral spirits to commune with the living. The entire structure was a masterful fusion of emerging science and deep spirituality. These ancient engineers used their sophisticated understanding of astronomy to build a permanent fixture in the landscape that could, in a sense, command the sky to open. The precision of their work, moving stones weighing tons across vast distances to achieve this alignment, reveals a universal human yearning to not just observe the heavens, but to interact with them directly. This ambition to build a physical gateway for the divine finds a parallel in an even older tradition, one that speaks not of stone circles, but of cosmic pillars and celestial fires in the ancient hymns of the Vedas. The hymns of the Rigveda echo with the thunder of celestial wheels. In ancient India, the gods did not reside in a distant, static heaven, but traveled the skies in magnificent chariots, mobile gateways that brought the divine directly into the world of mortals. The king of the gods, Indra, rode a golden chariot drawn by a pair of fiery, tawny horses, a vehicle whose very passage across the heavens manifested as rain, thunder, and life-giving storms. These were not simple modes of transport. They were expressions of cosmic power, enabling the deities to descend from Svarga, their heavenly realm, to wage war against demons, to uphold cosmic order, and to answer the prayers of their devotees. The Rigveda is filled with vivid descriptions of these journeys, painting a picture of a universe where the boundaries between realms were fluid, constantly being crossed by these radiant, roaring vehicles. This vision presents a profound shift in our understanding of celestial gateways. Unlike the fixed world tree or the unmoving sacred mountain, the chariot was a gateway in motion. It could open the sky anywhere at any time at the will of the god. This reflects a core Vedic belief in a dynamic, interactive cosmos, where the divine and human spheres are not separated by an impassable gulf, but are in a state of constant, vibrant exchange. The divine was not a distant monarch in a far-off palace, but an active, mobile force, as close as the next clap of thunder or the next downpour of rain. This idea of a moving, willful portal stands in stark contrast to the stable, central axis found in so many other traditions. Yet, for all their power and mobility, these chariots still traversed a celestial landscape. And one of the most universal features of that landscape, seen by cultures across the globe, was a great, starry river arching overhead. That great starry river arching across the night sky was not just a cluster of distant suns. For countless cultures, the Milky Way was a celestial highway, a shimmering path for souls and spirits. In China, it was the Silver River, a luminous flow of divine water separating the weaving maid and the cowherd, whose love once a year compelled a bridge of magpies to form across its glittering expanse. For many Native American tribes, it was the path of souls, the route the spirits of the dead traveled to reach the afterlife, guided by the central bulge of the galactic core as a final, brilliant campfire. Finnish folklore knew it as Linnanrata, the way of the birds, believing it was the path migrated birds followed each season, a literal flight path etched in starlight. The ancient Greeks saw it as the very road to Mount Olympus, while Norse skalds wove its light into the legend of the Bifröst itself. This universal interpretation of a single, dominant feature in the night sky reveals a profound pattern. Humanity did not just see random points of light, it saw infrastructure. It saw a river to be crossed, a bridge to be walked, a road leading directly to the realms of gods and ancestors. The Milky Way became the ultimate shared landmark in the celestial geography, a constant reminder that the sky was perforated with passages for those who knew how to look. This collective vision of a galactic gateway speaks to a deep, instinctual need to map our journeys, both in life and in death, onto the very fabric of the cosmos. But if one celestial highway leads to the heavens, another kind of passage was believed to descend into the depths of the earth. Our journey now plunges into the dark, sacred gateways of the Mesoamerican underworld. The dark, water-filled cenotes of the Yucatan Peninsula were far more than sources of fresh water. For the Maya, these vast natural sinkholes were the gaping mouths of Xibalba, the terrifying and layered underworld. They were portals leading not up to the heavens but directly down into the realm of the death gods and lords of decay. This was a celestial gateway in reverse, a vertical passage into the earth that held as much power and terror as any ladder to the stars. The most famous of these, the Cenote of Sacrifice at Chichen Itza, reveals the profound gravity of this belief. Archaeologists have dredged its depths to find a stunning collection of offerings, golden artifacts, intricately carved jade, and the skeletal remains of those chosen for sacrifice. These were not acts of random cruelty, but desperate and calculated communications. By lowering a person or a precious object into the still, dark waters, the Maya were sending a direct message to the gods below, most importantly to Chok, the god of rain and lightning. In a land entirely dependent on rainfall, the cenote was the ultimate conduit to plead for life-giving water, to appease the powers of the underworld who controlled the weather. The water itself was the medium, a liquid mirror that reflected the sky above while simultaneously serving as a passage to the depths below. It was the perfect symbol of a thin veil, a place where the world of the living and the world of the spirits met in a single, sacred pool. This vision completes our understanding of celestial gateways, reminding us that the connection to the divine was not always upward. Sometimes, the most powerful magic flowed from the terrifying, beautiful darkness beneath our feet. From these profound depths, we ascend to a vision of gateways that were not rooted in the earth at all, but that floated freely in the air, islands adrift in the golden light of the Aegean. Homer's Odyssey charts a sea of wonders, but few are as strange and functional as the floating island of Aeolia. This was no mere landmass adrift in the waves. It was a mobile fortress, a celestial control room for the very atmosphere itself. Its ruler, Aeolus, was not a typical god of the sky, but the appointed keeper of the winds. He held them imprisoned in a deep cavern, each unruly gust and stormy squall tethered within a leather bag. When the hero Odysseus and his weary crew landed upon its shores, they were not just finding shelter, they were accessing a direct line to the divine mechanics of the world. Aeolus, in an act of immense favor, gifted Odysseus the bag containing all the winds contrary to his journey home, leaving only a gentle western breeze to guide his ship. This was not magic in the abstract, it was a tangible transfer of celestial authority, a hero being handed the controls to the sky itself. The island's very nature, unmoored and floating, perfectly symbolized the idea that the boundary between the human and divine realms was not fixed but fluid and manageable. It was a gateway where the cosmic forces of weather could be personally petitioned and physically contained. Yet this story also carries a stark warning about the fragility of such divine aid. When Odysseus' men, driven by greed and suspicion, untied the bag thinking it held treasure, they unleashed a catastrophic storm that blew them right back to where they started. The floating island of Aeolia, therefore, stands as a unique kind of celestial gateway, one that is both a place of immense power and a test of human discipline. It teaches that access to the sky's secrets requires not just courage, but also the wisdom to manage the forces you are given. From this windswept, mobile outpost of divine control, our exploration turns to a gateway of an entirely different nature, one that contains not storms, but the seed of all creation, the cosmic egg of Orphic tradition. Before the world was even a thought, there existed a perfect, silent unity. In the ancient Greek Orphic mysteries, the entire cosmos began not with a bang, but with a delicate shell. This was the cosmic egg, a primordial sphere containing all the swirling potential of existence within its fragile walls. It was the ultimate self-contained gateway, the barrier between absolute chaos and the ordered universe waiting to be born. From this egg emerged the most extraordinary of deities, Phanes, the first god. Phanes was a being of radiant light, often depicted as androgynous and golden-winged, who brought forth the very concepts of time, life, and cosmic order simply by coming into being. The moment that shell cracked was the first and most important celestial gateway of all. It was not a door that opened upward, but one that opened outward, spilling light, divinity, and the structure of reality itself into the void. For the Orphic initiates, this was not just a creation myth, it was a spiritual blueprint. Their secret rituals were designed to symbolically reenact this primordial hatching. Through purification, music, and sacred rites, they sought to shed their old selves and achieve a state of spiritual rebirth, cracking their own mortal shell to emerge as a more divine being, reconnected to the original light of Phanes. This story frames the celestial gateway not as a location, but as a foundational event, the singular moment of fracture that set everything in motion. It is a powerful reminder that every gateway we have explored ultimately traces back to this first, fragile egg of possibility. And just as a sudden crack shatters silence, the ancient sky was also pierced by fleeting, unpredictable visitors that were seen as gateways of a far more transient kind. A sudden streak of fire slashing across the night sky was never just a rock falling from space. For ancient cultures worldwide, these transient visitors were urgent messages, momentary gateways through which the divine will was made terrifyingly clear. Comets with their long, ethereal tails and meteors with their brilliant, fleeting burns were interpreted as direct interventions, a rupture in the predictable dance of the heavens. The Romans meticulously recorded these events, seeing them as harbingers of profound change, often linked to the death of an emperor and his subsequent ascent to godhood. A comet was not just a sign, it was a celestial escort for a soul joining the pantheon. The Greeks, too, viewed them with a mix of awe and dread, believing they were omens that could foretell anything from a great military victory to a devastating plague. This was a gateway of pure information, a cosmic telegram spelling out fate. Across the Atlantic, many Native American traditions held a different, yet equally profound view. A shooting star was often seen as a soul in transit, a brilliant spark racing along the path to the afterlife. In that single, luminous moment, the sky opened not for a god, but for a human spirit completing its final journey. These phenomena underscore a crucial truth about our ancestors' view of the cosmos. The most powerful gateways were not always permanent structures. They could be sudden, unpredictable, and blindingly fast, a stark reminder that the divine could speak at any moment without warning in a language of fire and light. This narrative of fleeting, awe-inspiring connection stands in sharp contrast to a symbol of serene and enduring spiritual ascent, the lotus flower rising from the mud. From the muddy water, a single blossom rises, untouched by the filth from which it grows. In the spiritual traditions of India, the lotus flower is the ultimate symbol of internal transformation, a living metaphor for the gateway to enlightenment that opens not in the sky but within the human soul. Its journey from the dark, murky depths to a radiant bloom floating on the surface mirrors the path of spiritual awakening, where one transcends the mud of worldly attachments and desires to achieve a state of pure consciousness. This is why the Buddha and Hindu deities like Brahma and Lakshmi are so often depicted seated upon a lotus throne. Their divine presence does not descend from a distant heaven, but blossoms from a sacred point right here in our world, a living platform that is both of the earth and utterly transcendent. The lotus itself becomes the seat of manifestation, the very point where the infinite condenses into a tangible form. This idea is brought into daily practice through meditation. The cross-legged lotus posture is not merely a comfortable way to sit. It is a physical replication of the flower, a grounding of the body that allows the mind to ascend. Meditators are often guided to visualize lotus flowers at key energy centers in the body, each petal slowly unfolding with the breath, revealing a new level of awareness and inner light. Each unfurling petal represents the opening of an internal gateway, a direct channel to higher states of being. This vision fundamentally shifts our understanding of celestial gateways. The most important opening is not in the sky above, but in the quiet landscape of the self, accessible to anyone who undertakes the inner work of purification and focus. The lotus teaches us that the heavens are not a destination to be reached by chariot or ladder, but a potential waiting to bloom within our own awareness. This profound focus on the inner world finds a powerful echo in one of humanity's oldest recorded stories, where the search for an external gateway leads a king to a much deeper, more personal truth. The Epic of Gilgamesh follows the arrogant king of Uruk on a desperate quest for immortality after the death of his friend Enkidu. His journey takes him to the very ends of the earth, to a place called the Mount of Mashu, which was said to be a colossal gateway. Guarded by terrifying scorpion beings, this mountain was the portal through which the sun god Utu traveled each night, a passage from our world into the underworld and back again. Gilgamesh pleads with the scorpion guardians, and they, recognizing the divine part of him, allow him to enter. He then journeys through 12 leagues of absolute darkness, a harrowing internal trial as much as a physical one. He emerges not into a glorious heaven, but onto the shores of a distant paradisiacal garden. There, he meets the immortal sage Utnapishtim, who reveals the secret of a great flood and the god's grant of eternal life to him. Yet, this external secret is not something Gilgamesh can replicate. His quest for a physical gateway to immortality ultimately fails. He is tested and found wanting, and the magical plant of youth he finally obtains is stolen by a serpent. He returns to Uruk empty-handed but profoundly changed. The true gateway he passed through was not the Mount of Mashu, but the transformation of his own heart. He learns to accept his mortality and finds immortality instead through his legacy, the mighty walls of his city that will endure long after he is gone. The Epic of Gilgamesh, therefore, serves as a monumental bridge in human thought. It begins with the ancient desire for a physical, external path to the divine, but concludes with the revolutionary realization that the most significant journey is the one inward. The celestial gateway, in the end, is the wisdom found within a humbled and enlightened human spirit. That sacred cedar forest was no ordinary wilderness. It was a divine preserve, a place where the very trees were infused with celestial power, belonging to the great god Enlil. To enter this grove was to cross a forbidden threshold, stepping from the world of men into the direct domain of a deity. Its guardian, the demon Humbaba, was not merely a monster, he was the appointed warden of this cosmic border, his very presence a living barrier meant to enforce the boundary between humanity and the divine. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu resolved to travel there, cut down its tallest cedar and slay its guardian, their goal was not just timber or simple glory. It was an act of ultimate transgression, a deliberate breaching of a celestial gateway. Their violent entry into the forest and the subsequent killing of Humbaba was a profound disruption. They shattered a divinely ordained protection, forcing open a door that was meant to remain sealed. The immediate consequence of this victory was not lasting triumph, but a spiraling tragedy. The gods, angered by this overreach, decreed that Enkidu must die. The death of his beloved friend was the direct price for their sacrilege. This story serves as one of humanity's oldest and most powerful warnings. Celestial gateways are not simply opportunities for glory, they are delicate balances of power. To access a higher realm carries a profound responsibility, and to do so through arrogance and force is to invite a catastrophic backlash. The cedar forest teaches us that some thresholds exist for a reason, and that mortal ambition, unchecked by reverence, can sever the very connection it seeks to exploit. This cautionary tale of a gateway violently breached finds a fascinating parallel in a tradition that envisioned not one, but multiple, meticulously ordered celestial cities floating in the cosmos. While the floating island of Aeolia controlled the winds, the sacred texts of ancient India describe entire cities that mastered the sky itself. These were the Vimanas, magnificent flying palaces and fortresses detailed in epics like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Far more than simple chariots, these were sprawling, mobile celestial realms, capable of traveling through the air, across the oceans, and between different worlds. One such city was Hiranyapura, a golden fortress that soared through the heavens, inhabited by powerful beings known as the Asuras. These were not static temples or natural portals, but dynamic, traveling gateways. A Vimana was a piece of the divine realm that could descend anywhere on earth, its very presence turning a patch of ordinary ground into a sacred intersection. The texts describe these vehicles in astonishing detail, with multiple stories, ornate pillars, and powered by a mysterious energy source sometimes called Mercury or a mystical wind. They were said to move with the speed of thought, humming with a celestial vibration, and could become invisible at will. This vivid imagery inevitably blurs the line between spiritual allegory and a record of advanced, forgotten technology. Were these merely poetic metaphors for spiritual attainment, or could they be echoes of a lost science, a literal description of vehicles that traversed the skies? The concept is revolutionary. It transforms the celestial gateway from a fixed location you must journey to into a mobile entity that can journey to you. This paints a picture of a cosmos teeming with intelligent, willful access points, where the divine is not anchored to a mountain or a tree, but is dynamic, exploratory, and capable of intervening directly in human affairs. The idea of these flying cities, these movable pieces of heaven, perfectly sets the stage for our final story, a cataclysmic celestial intervention from the myths of the Aztecs. The final story brings us to the very brink of cosmic annihilation. In the Aztec myth of the fifth sun, the world had already been created and destroyed 4 times. The gods gathered in the absolute darkness at Teotihuacan, knowing a new age required a new sun, but this celestial gateway could only be opened through the ultimate price. 2 gods stepped forward, the proud, wealthy Tecusistecatl and the humble, diseased Nanahuatzin. A massive pyre was built, a divine furnace of unimaginable heat. When the moment came, Tecutistecatl faltered, his courage failing before the flames. But Nanahuatzin, without a moment of hesitation, threw himself into the fire and was utterly consumed. Shamed into action, Tecutistecatl then leapt in after him. From the ashes of this selfless sacrifice, the sun and moon rose into the sky for the very first time, setting the heavens in motion and establishing the era we live in today. This was not a passive gateway, it was a living one, born from divine death and requiring constant fuel to survive. The Aztecs believed the sun was engaged in a daily battle against the forces of darkness. To empower it for this struggle, to keep this celestial gateway open and the cosmos in balance, humanity had to reciprocate the original sacrifice. The offering of human hearts and blood was seen not as an act of cruelty, but as a sacred duty, a necessary collaboration with the divine to feed the sun and prevent the universe from collapsing back into eternal night. This myth presents the most demanding vision of a celestial gateway, one that is not a permanent structure or a seasonal event, but a fragile, ongoing process sustained by collective effort and profound sacrifice. From the self-immolation of a humble god to the rituals of a mighty empire, the sky remained open only through a continuous cycle of giving. And so we have traveled through 23 stories, from Mesopotamian Ziggurats to Andean peaks, from Jacob's dream ladder to the Polynesian rainbow path. We have seen celestial gateways built of stone, of fire, of consciousness, and of song. What do these diverse threads, spun across continents and millennia, ultimately reveal? They show us a humanity united not by a single truth, but by a shared, profound yearning. Our ancestors looked at the vast, unknowable sky and refused to see a void. Instead, they saw a landscape of connection, a place alive with possibility. They saw bridges for gods, chariots for prophets, and roads for the souls of the dead. They mapped their hopes, their fears, and their understanding of cosmic order onto the stars. The specific forms changed, but the underlying impulse remained constant, a deep-seated belief that we are not alone, that our world is interwoven with other, higher realms. These stories are more than just myths. They are the blueprints of ancient wonder, a testament to our innate need to reach beyond the horizon and touch the divine. They remind us that the greatest gateway of all may not be in the sky, but in the human spirit itself, in our endless capacity to imagine a cosmos full of meaning and mystery. These 23 stories, woven across continents and centuries, are not a chaotic collection of random fantasies. When we listen closely, a powerful chorus of shared themes begins to emerge from the noise. One of the most persistent is the idea of the Axis Mundi, that central pillar of the universe connecting heaven, earth, and the underworld. We see it in the Siberian World Tree, the Babylonian Ziggurat, and the Andean sacred mountain. Though their forms are wildly different, each culture pinpointed a central axis, a cosmic anchor around which all of reality could revolve. This reveals a fundamental human need to find, or to create, a center to the cosmos, a fixed point of orientation in a vast and often frightening universe. Another undeniable thread is the role of sacrifice. The gateway is rarely free. A price must be paid to open it, to cross it, or to keep it open. This cost can be literal, as with the Aztec sun god Nanahuatzin immolating himself or the Maya offerings cast into the Cenote. Or it can be a spiritual sacrifice, the immense discipline of the Taoist adept or the Siberian shaman, who offers their own comfort and ego in pursuit of higher knowledge. The gateway demands something of value in exchange for access, framing the divine connection as a sacred transaction of energy. These portals are also deeply intertwined with the natural world. They are not abstract concepts floating in a philosophical vacuum. They are made of rainbow fire, of swirling ocean currents, of towering stone peaks, and of the starry river of the Milky Way. Our ancestors saw the divine not as separate from nature, but as immanent within it. The most powerful forces of the cosmos were mirrored in the most powerful forces of their environment, from the life-giving sun to the terrifying storm. This leads us to the profound duality of these gateways. They are never simply safe or benevolent. The same Bifröst bridge that allows the gods to travel can shatter and bring about the end of the world. The same whirlpool of T-Parata that controls the tides can swallow a canoe and its crew. The celestial gateway is a place of immense opportunity and immense peril, a threshold where one might find divine blessing or utter annihilation. This duality reflects a mature understanding of the sacred, that true power is never one-sided, and that approaching the divine requires both courage and caution. Ultimately, these myths served as profound cultural frameworks for life's greatest transitions. The journey across the Milky Way as the path of souls gave meaning to death. The vision of Jacob's ladder provided a model for prayer and spiritual ascent. The internal blossoming of the lotus flower mapped the path to enlightenment. These stories were tools for understanding birth, death, purpose, and the human condition itself. They provided a symbolic language for the existential questions that every person in every era must eventually face. So what do these ancient patterns mean for us today in our world of satellites and science? We no longer build ziggurats or sacrifice to mountain spirits, yet the human yearning they represent has not vanished. It has simply transformed. We still seek to cross thresholds to connect with something greater than ourselves and to find meaning in the vast, mysterious cosmos. The celestial gateways of old may have closed in our literal sight, but they remain wide open in the landscape of the human imagination.